China is holding its two sessions. The annual gathering draws national lawmakers and top political advisors to vote on draft laws and discuss policy issues. It is democracy in Chinese sense, but in Western narratives,
the NPC is viewed as a largely rubber stamp body,
often called the rubber stamp,
to China's largely rubber stamp National People's Congress.
Well, China sticks to its guns, calling the two sessions the basis of China's own model of democracy. China and the West tend to interpret the same reality differently, and this one in particular raises a bigger question. Is China really a democracy? To answer this question, we first need to figure out what it means to be democratic. But even among modern Western academics, there is no definitive conclusion. One thing they seem to agree upon is the right to vote. So let's try to play by this rule for now. In 1954, the People's Republic of China promulgated its first constitution. This document granted equal voting rights to all adult citizens, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion, or property. That was something not accomplished in the United States until over a decade later. And the vote in China is featured by its inclusiveness. Take women's role as an example. Among the lawmakers who enacted the first constitution was Shen Jilan. This female farmer advocated equal pay for equal work since 1950s, and she served as NPC deputy for 66 years. By the founding of the Republic, a woman was also elected as the Vice President of China, whereas in the United States,
our first woman Vice President, Kamala Harris.
And even the slogan China used in the 50s stays relevant today.
Chinese saying, it says, women hold up half the world.
Broad and equal voting rights are exercised in China, but the system is not vote-oriented. China's application of democratic principles follows an approach Xi Jinping has termed whole process people's democracy. Not only does it have a complete set of institutions and procedures, but also full participation and practices. For example, since the decision to draft China's civil code was announced in 2014, over 1 million pieces of advice flooded the suggestion box. More than 100 amendments were made based on the input before its adoption in 2020. It echoes what Deng Xiaoping said, motivation leads to the greatest democracy. China has a strong and competent governing party. It is aided by the combined wisdom of 8 non-CPC political parties and the people. This model ensures the efficiency of democratic decision-making and policy continuity. China has its own way of interpreting and practicing democracy, but it often faces haughty preaching from the West.
I believe it will move China faster and further in the right direction.
So let's take a pause here and talk about which right direction the United States wants China to take. Could it be like this? Probably not. After that, Biden had to host a show of vanity to reclaim U.S. democratic moral high ground. Or is this the right direction?
We, the people, have remained faithful to the ideals of our forebears and true to our founding documents.
Well, that is part of the problem. To quote James Madison, father of the U.S. Constitution, a pure democracy can admit of no cure for the mischiefs of faction. Alexander Hamilton also chipped in, if we incline too much to democracy, we shall soon shoot into a monarchy. Democracy was not something America started out to be. Its founders got out of their way to check people's voice, adding to the system aristocratic elements like the Senate, Supreme Court, Electoral College, etc. In fact, the American democracy has changed so much along the way. It went from a system that elected Honest Abe to a system that put Donald Trump in charge of the nuclear button. So the question repeats itself. Which right direction does the United States want China to take? And should China copy any of those versions of democracy at all? The founders of the People's Republic of China took a different path. And unlike American founding fathers, they were committed to democracy from the beginning. In the run-up to the founding of New China, Mao Zedong made clear the way to challenge the unavoidable fate of dynastic fall in China. We have found a new path to break free from this cycle. The new path is democracy. And that is the idea on which China's new government was built in 1949. 7 decades on, China grows to be one of the fastest developing nations on Earth. And the 14th Five-Year Plan adopted last year laid a blueprint for more ambitious development. For example, extending high-speed rail by 12,000 kilometers, roughly the size of the existing networks in the next 5 countries combined. This 5-year plan drew over 1 million suggestions from grassroots and went through meticulous discussions among national lawmakers before adoption. All of them helped determine what the nation will look like in the next 5 years. Today, China is the world's second largest economy and biggest global trader. China reforested desertified areas the size of Austria in a matter of 5 years. China managed the first soft landing on the far side of the moon in the history of humanity. China even eliminated absolute poverty in a country of 1.4 billion people. The democratic ideas envisioned by the forebearers have followed through and enabled China to achieve the impossible. A poll released by Western NGOs in 2020 shows that 84% of Chinese view democracy as important, and 73% believe China is a democratic country. It is the 6th highest among all 53 countries and regions surveyed. So China's government was founded on democratic ideas. Its democracy helps the country develop, and most of the Chinese believe their country is democratic. So now we go back to our original question. Is China really a democracy?